Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back. Let's get into it.
David Lammy, can I ask you about the statement you issued yesterday with 27 other countries condemning what is now happening in Gaza? You said the suffering of civilians in Gaza has reached new depths. We were just hearing from Lord Michael Gove earlier, who said that you're getting this wrong. It's not the Israeli government's fault. It's the fact that Hamas is still trying to control the aid delivery process, that they are still at fault and that your statement is misguided?
I warned the Israeli government that if they reduced from 400 aid sites to 4, that what would ensue would be chaos. And now we see the grotesque spectacle of kids holding out their hand for food and being shot and killed as they wait. And of course, it offends all possible public consciousness in our own country. But why we saw so many countries come together and sign that statement, I think now up to 28, is because it offends the global community. And because Israel is now putting itself beyond the global community in the humanitarian system that it is set up. It's important also to recognise that people are now crowded into just 15% of Gaza. This is the most densely populated area on the planet, more dense than any prison on the planet. And for that reason, the ability to actually get aid and assistance to people, never mind the medical aid that people need, I'm afraid is beyond possible. And for that
David
reason,
Lammy,
this war must come to an end.
I hear your words, very different from Michael Gove. Lots of people will say, though, this statement is toothless. It's all very well urging and condemning, but what are you actually going to do? How long can the British government and other governments stand back and see Israel doing things which you're condemning and not taking more drastic action? You have taken action against individual cabinet ministers in Israel, but don't you need to go further now in action to force Israel to change course?
Well, Ed, you're right. I have sanctioned ministers in the Israeli government. I have broken off any discussions of a new free trade agreement with the Israeli government. And we said yesterday that we would take further action if needed. But at the moment, what we want to see is a ceasefire.
It sounds like it's needed.
We're working with the US, Qatar and Egypt to try and bring about that ceasefire. And let me speak clear, of course, much of the responsibility rests with Hamas. I don't deny that. But Israel controls who goes in and who goes out of Gaza. It controls the humanitarian system. And so it has to accept responsibility for the loss of life, for the lack of human dignity and the suffering that we now see right across the Gaza Strip.
So what is the next further step? If you don't get the ceasefire, what is the next further step you can take which would actually make a difference to what Israel is doing? What are you considering?
Well, we've announced a raft of sanctions over the last few months. There will be more, clearly, and we keep all of those options under consideration if we do not see a change in behaviour and the suffering that we're seeing come to an end. And it's important that we continue to work with international partners if we are to have the maximum result. But what I want to see is a ceasefire, and it's my assessment that once the Knesset rises on the 28th of July, we are likely or more likely to see a ceasefire come into effect.
I just want to pause it there and say that David Lammy, he says all the right things. It's all bark or no action. You know what I mean? There's barks. You know, we need, at this stage, we need action, not democracy or maybe not democracy. Maybe I should change the word to maybe, negotiation and everything. We know what Israel is doing. It doesn't take rocket science what they're trying to do. And clear out everything in Gaza. Even if they had to kill everyone, 1 million or 2 million people, they would do it. You can see by the action. But we need action towards them. That we need to not let them be in charge of military aid. what goes in and out. We need to open up the maritime corridor, let the aid through, like the flotilla. That was the whole purpose. And yeah, we just have to see now what we can do. In the UK, if you're up to date with the news, if you speak up against Israel, if you burn the flag or anything, or even if you support Palestine action, most likely you're going to be arrested, likely up to 14 years. Same category they put you in terrorism, terrorist act. It's ridiculous at this stage. Freedom of speech is no more.
What we're seeing now is the most horrific stage of Israel's starvation campaign. Prime Minister Netanyahu himself had announced this round of the starvation campaign on March 1st. So from March 2nd to May 19th, no food, no water, no humanitarian aid entered Gaza. So that's approximately 78 days. And then since May 19th until now, aid has been severely restricted, or Israel has been using aid as a way to bait civilians and has been killing civilians that have been seeking aid. It's when we see children dying from hunger and malnutrition, we know it's a famine. Because any community, the first thing it does is it feeds its children under any circumstances when there's hunger. And when kids start to die, that means the social system is under attack. And so from a human rights perspective, there's no doubt it's a famine. So what a famine tells us is this is the worst case scenario of people being denied what they need to survive. So it's not just denial of food, but water and healthcare. But from a legal perspective, what we do know undoubtedly that this is a case of starvation. Starvation is a war crime. Countries must act to stop starvation. So we knew that Israel had intended to starve the Palestinians in Gaza since October 9th, 2023, when Israel announced explicitly its plan to starve the Palestinians in Gaza. For 20 months, the governments of the world were on notice and had many opportunities.
It's hard to stomach what you see there. Little innocent kids. They have nothing to do with this. As soon as they're born, they're the victim of war. No kid should go through all this. They're all skin and bones. I don't know really what to say. In the interview, the man said, it's a war crime. Damn, it's hard to see that.
To stop what
you say that you use the term genocide. Lots of people use the term genocide. I asked one of the UK's most eminent Supreme Court justices last week about that term genocide. He said that there is massive evidence to show that Israel has committed war crimes in the process of this, but he stopped at calling it a genocide because he said the intent was hard to prove.
Impose a full blockade on baby's milk formula, on food, on water, on what exactly then you go and you completely destroy all the agricultural land, all the livestocks. Why are they doing all that? Why are they? And then when you approach these so-called humanitarian centers, which are death traps by Israel, you are shot and killed, as the number you've just quoted, 79. Why are they doing that if this is not genocide?
This is part of the legal case for intent.
Okay, so please do not get too much focus on terminology. A campaign of erasure, a campaign of extermination and annihilation.
Allow me to speak.
Huh?
You're going to have to allow me to speak.
I am allowing you to speak, but you're challenging a word as opposed to when I just was driving here and I was seeing people literally fainting, Tom. Fainting. Girls, babies, children fainting because there is no food.
I'm not here to argue with you that it is not absolutely
we're discussing
appalling.
Is Israel
of course it is.
committing these crimes or not now, after all this?
We're not discussing whether necessarily they are committing crimes, but there is a legal definition for genocide, and I completely accept your point that what is happening in there is absolutely awful, and the images would move anybody. But it is a legal term defined by intent, so that will be one, I suspect, for the ICJ and the ICC to look at.
I'm calling on the whole world, anyone who can hear my voice. My son died of malnutrition, lack of food, lack of water. I keep going from one place to the next, looking for milk for my children. They keep turning me away. My children haven't eaten since yesterday.
The only thing in the markets available now are lentils and a few potatoes. We feed 20,000 people daily, but unfortunately we can't make enough food. Demand is too great.
The BBC has learnt that 21 children have died of malnutrition and starvation in the past 72 hours. That's according to the director of the Shifa Hospital in Gaza, who told us that around 900,000 children in Gaza are now suffering from hunger, 70,000 of whom are in a state of malnutrition. It comes as Israeli forces are continuing their offensive in central Gaza, specifically in the area of Deir al-Balah. Until now, the IDF had avoided ground operations there over concerns that Israeli hostages could be being held there by Hamas.
Every day, killing them in their thousands.
And you're a doctor?
I am indeed.
Do you think it's appropriate they're being arrested for this action?
Well, I'm thinking about all the medical staff, medical facilities in Gaza that have been destroyed by the genocide, by the Israeli Defense Forces. They've deliberately targeted healthcare workers. Many hundreds have died. And all the healthcare facilities have been damaged, if not completely destroyed, in this onslaught against the Palestinian people. So people now haven't got access to healthcare like they once had.
Do you know what this place...
Will you only stop the war when the hope is gone? Only make a deal when nothing's left to bone, and you're still pretending you did nothing wrong. Maybe this was your plan for it all along. Burn it to the ground, sell it for a song, and you're still pretending you did nothing wrong. Killing kids and women in the dark, the same old hatred, poison in your heart, as on that day you say was the start. October 7th was a horror show, brutal terror, everybody knows. But self-defense, how far does it go? Will you only stop the war when the hope is gone? Only make a deal when nothing's left to bone, and you're still pretending you did nothing wrong. I know this was your plan for it all along. Slaughtering the weak doesn't make you strong, and you're still pretending you did nothing wrong.
Alright guys, I'm gonna end the video there. And yeah, every day is another day, 70, 60, 100 people die. It's nothing. There's no value. You know, it's getting to the stage that people getting bothered. They're looking at this image. Just straight away skip it. That's why I'm doing this, to keep reminding people every day. That we must always stand up for Palestine in each in our own way. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum.